The chosen one. The lost kingdom awaits. Reclaim your throne. Legends have told of you. Prophecies have whispered your name. Now it is time to hear the call of destiny. The lost kingdom awaits you like an inheritance, waiting to be reborn. Remember your power, follow in the footsteps of your ancestors, and reclaim your rightful throne. There will be hardships, there will be trials, but remember, you are no ordinary man. You are the chosen one. In your blood burns the power to rule. In your soul, the fire that reminds you that you are the rightful owner of the kingdom. Act now and write 77 in the comments. Claim your throne. Write your destiny. They had lived in an illusion, a world of their own making, believing they could always control the narrative. For years, you played a part in that world, adjusting yourself to their rhythm, contorting your thoughts, and bending your feelings just to maintain a semblance of peace. You became their quiet anchor, absorbing their storms, becoming the calm in their chaos. But the day you chose yourself, when you finally stepped away, it shattered the facade they'd carefully constructed. They were no longer shielded from the reality of their actions, left to face the disarray they had long ignored. Without your presence to cushion the impact, they had to confront their own darkness, a mirror they couldn't avoid. So when you left, they didn't panic. They laughed, confident that you'd come running back, just like the river always returned to its banks after the storm. But what they didn't see, what they couldn't understand, was that this wasn't just another moment. This was a shift in the heavens. This was destiny moving. Because, chosen one, you weren't just walking away. You were stepping into who you were, always meant to be. The river wasn't returning to the old path. The dam had broken. The course had changed. And nothing, not their doubts, not their pleas, not even their disbelief, could stop what was already set in motion. They thought they could hold you in place, but they underestimated the power of a divine calling. And when God opens a door, no man can shut it. Days turned to weeks, and the silence between you two grew louder. It was not just an absence of sound, it was the absence of everything you brought into their life. Your energy, your understanding, your patience. The space you once filled felt hollow, like an echo that bounced around an empty room. At first, they tried to ignore it, filling the void with distractions and noise, but no matter how loud they turned the world, your absence gnawed at them. They could almost hear you in the next room, yet you weren't there. It was a ghost of their own making, a phantom they couldn't escape. As they sat in the quiet spaces you once occupied, waiting for you to return, the weight of the truth pressed upon them. They had never truly understood how much you had given until you were no longer there. The realization was slow, painful, but inevitable. You were gone, and they were left alone, with no one to blame but themselves. The silence forced them to face a version of themselves they had long avoided. It wasn't your absence that hurt the most. It was the confrontation with who they truly were when there was no one else to deflect their inner turmoil onto. In the years of your connection, you had become too accustomed to adapting, to surviving. You had learned their patterns, the subtle shifts in their mood, the unspoken expectations, the rules that governed their affection. You walked a fine line, never knowing whether you were loved or merely tolerated, but you bent, adjusted, and made it work. But the love you gave was never truly received. It was only a form of survival, a way to maintain the balance in their world. What they thought was love was merely you keeping everything intact, even as the foundation crumbled beneath you. And when you left, they saw it, perhaps for the first time. They saw the cracks, the wounds, and the chaos that had always been there, hidden beneath the veneer of your presence. Without you to soothe the tension, their world began to collapse, and all the dysfunction they had ignored became glaringly obvious. They were left with nothing but the truth of their own brokenness, and without anyone to absorb the weight of their mess, they had to carry it themselves. It was never about their strength or control. It was about you, holding everything together, even when it was falling apart. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. They never saw it coming. The shift that would come when you finally let go. All those years of sacrifice, of bending to their will, of forgiving and forgetting. None of it had changed them. They mistook your resilience for weakness, your patience for complacency. They assumed you would always stay, until you didn't. And then everything changed. They believed it would always be like before, a storm that would pass, leaving everything as it was. They convinced themselves that you'd always find a way to forgive, always return to the same place. No matter how many times they pushed you to the edge. But this time was different. Something inside you snapped, like the final thread in a broken tapestry. Maybe it was the sting of their indifference, the way they dismissed your feelings as if they meant nothing. Or maybe it was the unbearable weight of years of unresolved wounds. Whatever it was, the moment arrived when you could no longer tolerate the lies. And for the first time, you chose peace over loyalty. Like a steady beacon piercing through a restless midnight sky, your decision emerged as a radiant testimony of truth, much like a sacred lantern that guides weary souls to safe harbor. In that very moment, as the light of your resolve broke through the murk of uncertainty, it became clear that a transformation was underway, a divine realignment that no earthly force could reverse. The shift was palpable, undeniable. They could feel it the moment you stopped reacting, the moment your silence ceased to be a sign of patient endurance and instead became a resolute declaration of personal freedom. Your absence was no longer an empty space to be hastily refilled. It was an intentional act, a carefully drawn boundary that they could no longer breach. When you looked at them, it wasn't with the familiar glimmer of fondness they had come to expect, nor with the lingering warmth of shared history. It was with a steadfast certainty that sent shivers deep into the recesses of their hearts. The truth, long obscured by self-deception and comfortable delusions, crashed upon them like a tidal wave. You had never been the one clinging on in a desperate bid to keep things the same. You had reached the moment when pretending was no longer an option. You had decided that you were done. In the quiet before that monumental choice, there was a subtle rhythm in your every response, a rhythm that once spoke of endurance and unconditional forgiveness. Day after day, you bore the weight of unacknowledged hurts and unspoken grievances, adapting yourself to circumstances that slowly eroded your spirit. You had been the steady pillar amid turbulent storms, always extending compassion even when the winds of criticism threatened to topple your resolve. But the burden had become too heavy to bear. Like a mighty oak that bends under the strain of endless storms yet refuses to break, you eventually found the strength to stand upright and reclaim your ground. When the moment arrived, it was not with explosive anger or a storm of harsh words, but rather with a calm, unwavering presence. Your silence transformed from an emblem of passive tolerance into a clear proclamation of liberation. It was as if you had closed a door that had been ajar for far too long, shutting out the relentless echoes of past grievances and stepping boldly into the light of a renewed purpose. They had grown accustomed to your ready smile and kind words, taking them for granted as the unspoken glue that held the frayed edges of their world together. Yet now that glue had solidified into a resolve that could not be undone by mere words or empty gestures. In that defining moment, your demeanor shifted, its tone resonating with the wisdom of years and the quiet authority of someone who has weathered many storms. It was a tone reminiscent of a seasoned preacher at a revival, speaking to a congregation of souls yearning for hope and renewal. There was no bitterness in your gaze, nor any trace of the sorrow that once haunted your eyes. There was only an unyielding certainty, a gentle yet firm announcement that the era of compromise and self-abnegation had come to a definitive end. The realization was as simple and clear as the morning sun dispelling the remnants of a long, dark night. You were never meant to be diminished, never meant to be reduced to the role of a perennial caretaker of others' emotions. For years, you had given freely of your love, your compassion, and your resilience, qualities that many mistook for vulnerability rather than the magnificent strength they truly were. You had been the harbor in which they sought refuge during life's tempests, the silent supporter whose every act of kindness was a quiet prayer for a better tomorrow. But in the course of time, your kindness had been misconstrued as weakness, your forgiveness mistaken for a license to continue a cycle of neglect and disrespect. It was a pattern as old as time, where one's gentle spirit is exploited until it withers under the strain of perpetual sacrifice. And so, the day arrived when you recognized that your well of compassion was not an endless resource to be mined by those unwilling to nurture their own hearts. That day, as you embraced the clarity that comes from years of hard-won experience and spiritual insight, your silence grew more powerful than any voice. It was as though you had tapped into a wellspring of divine assurance, and every moment of quiet was infused with the promise of a brighter, more honest future. No longer would you be the instrument through which others manipulated their own insecurities or masked their failures. Instead, you became the very embodiment of a sacred promise that one day the chains of old habits and misguided expectations would be broken, allowing for a renewal of self-respect and genuine love. They, on the other hand, were left reeling in the wake of your departure. The sudden void, once perceived as an empty gap in their routine, rapidly transformed into an uncomfortable reminder of the sacrifices they had taken for granted. Each day without you made the truth increasingly undeniable. The foundation of their comfort was built on a precarious balance, maintained only by the constant reassurance of your presence. As that reassurance faded, so too did the illusions that had long shielded them from facing the deeper truths of their own existence. They were now confronted with the stark realization that the sanctuary they had enjoyed was nothing more than a fragile facade, a structure destined to crumble when the support that upheld it was withdrawn. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. Your deliberate choice to step away was not an act of rebellion or defiance. It was an act of self-affirmation, a declaration that you would no longer be complicit in a dynamic that denied you the respect and love you inherently deserved. It was a spiritual awakening, a moment of clarity that many only experience after a lifetime of quiet suffering. With every heartbeat, you declared that you were more than the role they had cast you in. You were a person of worth, a bearer of light in a world that often sought to dim that brilliance. In your silence, there lay a call to transformation, a call that reverberated deep within the souls of those who had once depended on you, urging them to confront their own inner emptiness and rediscover the strength they had long buried beneath layers of denial and complacency. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the ripple effect of your departure began to reshape the landscape of their lives. The routines that once offered a semblance of stability now seemed hollow, their vibrancy diminished by the absence of the one element that had once held everything together. Every conversation, every silent moment became a mirror, reflecting back the reality of their choices, a reality that they could no longer escape. In the quiet aftermath, there emerged a painful clarity, an understanding that the comfort they had clung to was an illusion, one that could not withstand the pressure of unaddressed truths and unmet needs. Imagine a clear, unyielding river that cuts through the roughest canyon, a river that, despite the jagged stones and steep drops, finds its way forward with unwavering purpose. In the same way, your choice shines as a steady current of hope and transformation, guiding those who once wandered, lost in a maze of old ways, into a brand new horizon of redemption. Now, as they stand at the crossroads of decisions, they themselves have carved through years of misplaced priorities and unspoken compromises. The deep, resonant impact of your decision lays before them a final, life-changing opportunity for renewal. This is not merely an ordinary fork in the road. It is the moment when the scales of self-deception are finally tipped, when each person is offered the precious gift of self-reflection and the promise of a brighter future. They are being called to peer deeply within themselves, to challenge the very patterns and behaviors that have long defined their relationships. It is a stirring invitation to break free from the grip of dependency and to let go of the old habits that once kept them confined in a cycle of control and compromise. Through sincere introspection, they now have the chance to dismantle the barriers that have kept authentic connection and mutual respect at bay. In this pivotal moment, the potential for genuine, heartfelt change glows as brightly as a sunrise over a peaceful valley, reminding them that every soul is capable of rebirth when it dares to confront its shadows. In the stillness that follows your courageous step, the air itself seems to hum with possibility. The scars from past mistakes, those quiet, lingering reminders of pain that have quietly marred their hearts, begin to soften in the gentle light of renewed hope. Like the tender petals of a flower slowly unfurling in the warmth of the morning sun, their hearts are given the space to heal and to grow. Every challenge they have faced, every misstep along the way, now serves as a stepping stone towards a future brimming with promise. For many years, they wandered through life, clinging to familiar patterns, often mistaking them for safety, even as they led to sorrow and isolation. They had grown accustomed to a life where emotional dependency and rigid control reigned supreme, leaving little room for the kind of genuine connection that transforms lives. But your decision has created a clear and undeniable call, a clarion call that reverberates deep within, urging each one of them to reclaim their true self. It is a call that says, "You are worthy of love that uplifts, of respect that nurtures, and of a life where your spirit is free to soar." This is a moment of profound awakening, a time when every individual is gently urged to cast aside the weight of past grievances and look at their reflection in the mirror of honest self-assessment. They are invited to consider not only who they have been, but also who they can become. The old ways, characterized by a relentless search for control and a habit of clinging to what no longer serves them, are now being replaced by a new understanding that true strength comes from vulnerability, and genuine power is found in embracing one's own worth. It is a moment when the simple truth of life becomes as clear as the notes in a timeless hymn, a melody that reminds us all of the divine spark within. The journey ahead, though strewn with obstacles and the echoes of previous missteps, holds within it the promise of transformation. Every challenge is an opportunity, every hardship a lesson in disguise, and every quiet moment of reflection a step towards realizing the fullness of one's potential. This transformation is not about erasing the past, but about learning from it, allowing those experiences to refine rather than define us. Picture, if you will, a grand harvest ready to be reaped after a season of patient toil. The fields of the heart, once barren and neglected, are now tilled with the seeds of self-respect and nurtured by the waters of introspection. With every drop of honest effort, the barren lands of despair give way to a vibrant landscape of possibility and renewal. It is in this fertile ground that the true beauty of life can flourish, where old wounds are mended by the gentle hands of time and understanding, and where every soul is invited to blossom into its most magnificent form. As they stand at this very crossroads, each person is faced with a choice that resonates with the timeless wisdom of generations past. It is a choice that echoes through the corridors of memory and possibility alike, to remain anchored in the familiarity of old patterns or to step boldly into the light of a new beginning. With every heartbeat, the opportunity for transformation grows stronger, inviting them to let go of what no longer serves and to embrace the richness of a life reimagined. There is a sacred simplicity in this choice, a clear message that resonates with the wisdom of elders and the steadfast faith of those who have walked difficult paths before. It is a reminder that true redemption is not a matter of grand gestures or sweeping declarations, but of small, persistent acts of self-love and courage. When the burdens of the past are finally lifted, each individual finds that the road ahead, though challenging, is paved with hope and possibility. It is a journey marked by the quiet assurance that every soul can rise above its circumstances, every heart can learn to beat with renewed strength, and every spirit can be set free from the chains of old regrets. This moment, born from your deliberate and courageous choice, stands as a beacon, a symbol of what is possible when we choose to honor ourselves above all else. It is a powerful testimony that every person, no matter how entangled they may be in the webs of past disappointments, holds within them the capacity for renewal. The challenge, as formidable as it may seem, is an invitation to build a life grounded in authenticity, where mutual respect and true connection are not the exceptions, but the very foundation of everyday existence. In this era of reflection and transformation, there emerges an undeniable promise. A promise that when we invest in ourselves, we plant the seeds for a future filled with hope and abundance. It is a message as clear and comforting as the gentle murmur of a beloved sermon, assuring us that the path to redemption is paved with moments of sincere self-discovery and the quiet, steadfast belief that we are all deserving of a second chance. With hearts open to possibility and minds ready to learn from past missteps, the promise of a new chapter becomes not just a distant dream, but an attainable reality. So, as they gather at this pivotal junction, let the profound impact of your choice serve as the spark that ignites their journey toward true redemption. Let it remind them that the power to transform their lives lies not in clinging to outdated modes of living, but in embracing the gift of introspection and the courage to start afresh. And in doing so, may each one find the strength to honor their own worth and step confidently into a future where every moment is touched by the light of renewed hope. Every challenge is met with the wisdom of past trials, and every heart beats in harmony with the divine rhythm of a life well lived. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially, far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. In the end, your act of stepping away was not a rejection of love, but an embrace of the profound truth that self-respect is the cornerstone of any lasting, meaningful connection. It was a decision grounded in the timeless wisdom that one must first nurture the soul before it can truly uplift another. Your quiet defiance, marked by an unwavering commitment to your own well-being, has set a powerful precedent, a reminder that while the road to healing may be long and fraught with trials, the reward of authentic, unburdened living is a treasure beyond measure. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit unchained by the confines of past expectations, you have embarked on a journey toward a future where your light shines brighter than ever before, inspiring all who cross your path to seek out their own inner strength and embrace the boundless possibilities of a life lived in truth. And they tried to move on. Quickly, easily, they replaced you with someone else, someone who wouldn't challenge them, someone who wouldn't ask for growth or accountability. But no matter how many new faces they found, no matter how many distractions they tried to fill the emptiness with, it never felt right. They kept searching, but all they found was the same dissatisfaction, the same underlying tension. Every new connection cracked under the same weight of unspoken truths, the same bitterness, the same need to hide from themselves. The pattern followed them, and no matter how much they tried to escape it, it was always there, lurking in every interaction. It wasn't that you had asked too much, it was that they were incapable of giving what you truly needed. They had always blamed you, convinced themselves that the problems were your fault, that if only you had been less of a challenge, less of a force to reckon with, they wouldn't have to confront their own shortcomings. But as time passed and they watched yet another relationship crumble, another person slip away, the truth became impossible to deny. It was never about you. It was about them, and it always had been. The hole they tried to fill with shallow distractions, quick fixes, and empty conversations only deepened. They realized, far too late, that it wasn't the relationship they had lost. It was the only person who had ever really seen them, the only one who had held the space for their growth, who had fought for them when no one else would. And they would never find someone who could do that again.